Critical and creative reading. Reading a research paper is a critical process. The reader should not be under the assumption that reported results or arguments are correct. Rather, being suspicious and asking appropriate questions is in fact a good thing. Have the authors attempted to solve the right problem? Are there simpler solutions that have not been considered? What are the limitations of the solution, and are there any missing links? Are the assumptions that were made reasonable? Is there a logical flow to the paper, or is there a flaw in the reasoning? These need to be ascertained apart from the relevance and the importance of the work by careful reading. Use of judgmental approach and boldness to make judgments is needed while reading. Flexibility to discard previous erroneous judgments is also critical. Additionally, it is important to ascertain whether the data presented in the paper is right data to substantiate the argument that was made in the paper and whether the data was gathered and interpreted in a correct manner. Critical reading is relatively easy. It is relatively easier to critically read to find the mistakes than to read it so as to find the good ideas in the paper. Anyone who has been a regular reviewer of journal articles would agree to such a statement. Reading creatively is harder and requires a positive approach in search. In creative reading, the idea is to actively look for other applications, interesting generalizations, or extended work which the authors might have missed. Are there plausible modifications that may throw up important practical challenges? One might be able to decipher properly if one would like to start researching an extended part of this work, and what should be the immediate next aspect to focus upon. Next is taking notes while reading. A researcher reads to write and writes well only if the reading skills are good. The bridge between reading and actually writing a paper is the act of taking notes during and shortly after the process of reading. There is a well-known saying that the faintest writing is better than the best memory, and it applies to researchers who need to read and build on that knowledge to write building on the notes taken. Many researchers take notes on the margins of their copies of papers or even digitally on an article aggregator tool. In each research paper, there are a lot of things that one might like to highlight for later use, such as definitions, explanations, and concepts. If there are questions of criticisms, these need to be written down so as to avoid being forgotten later on. Such efforts pay significantly when one has to go back and reread the same content after a long time. On completing a thorough reading, a good technical reading should end with a summary of the paper in a few sentences describing the contributions. But to elucidate the technical merit, the paper needs to be looked at from comparative perspective with respect to existing works in that specific area. A thorough reading should bring out whether there are new ideas in the paper or if